Dr. Singh, your take on the Mumbai's wish list, particularly the expectations. Let's go to Dr. Charan Singh. Increase in tax brackets, rationalizing of the GST, and especially the concerns raised by emerging sectors like space, and concerns, of course, as far as the maritime, sector in Mumbai particularly is concerned.
I first of all would like to congratulate the ministry. They've come out with an excellent economic survey. I think it's a very honest economic survey, and I think it's also flagging the issues right at the place. You look at the very first chapter of the economic survey, and it is titled State of the Economy Getting Back into the Fast Lane.
Okay.
It's very important and courageous statement to acknowledge, yes, we have got into the slow lane and we need to move into the fast lane. So I think excellent economic survey which lays down the ground reality of where the economy is. Now, given that fact, then what are the expectations? As you know that the economy did slow down in the second quarter, and if you look at the aggregate economy, we are growing in the range of 6%, 6 to 7%. We have a potential of growing 8 to 9%. Though we are the fastest growing economy in the world, and we are happy to do that, but other countries like China are catching up if you look at the latest data that IMF has released. So therefore, we need to maintain our high growth. Secondly, we need to move to the growth potential. How do we do it?
Yeah.
So before the budget, expectations are always very high. There are some of those which you have mentioned, but in general, as an economist, we have been always thinking of having tax reforms, and also in financial sector some reforms. In the tax reforms, direct tax code has always been there. So therein we have been talking about the things which you were discussing, that how do we put more money into the hands of the people through tax. Of course, government is doing through other things. It has come out with the home scheme. It has also come out with other schemes where more money is being put into the hands of the people. But from the tax, yes, so tax rationalization can happen through direct tax code. You can simplify the taxation system. You can make it more convenient instead of so many deductions and then almost confusing how to go about. You can have a more simplified system. As far as direct taxes are concerned, the pointed question which you asked on GST,
right.
Yes, one of the most important canon or say pivot of taxation is there should be certainty in taxes. Now, if tax rates change in the middle of the year or they keep changing and one is not very sure, then taking decisions on income and investment become a challenge. So GST Council, of course, is a great example of federal corporate movement. But please also remember, when they change the taxes, the businessman and the industry does get impacted. So therefore, I think the GST certainty is important. So therefore, there has to be rationalization of GST. They could simplify the taxes. They could announce in the beginning of the year that this is the tax we would expect. They could probably also consider of including petroleum into GST. I do not know if it happened now or not, but that is an important issue that needs to be done. So yes, the middle income, the middle class needs to be taken care of. They are the ones who pay most taxes. And those middle class, if you put more money in their hands, obviously there's going to be more consumption. And
right.
Then consumption drives production. So in case more demand, obviously the manufacturer is going to produce more of that commodity. So I think that's very important. The last point which you made, and there was a discussion, was on inflation.
Right.
As an economist, it's my duty to explain that inflation in our country was never that high as was in America, UK or Europe. In those countries, inflation had risen to 10% odd, whereas their 30-year average was less than 2%. In our country, if you look at the complete phase from 22nd when high inflation globally was recorded, we have not. Our inflation target is between 2 and 6, 4 is the pivot, plus minus 2. We have just done mainly around 6 to 7, maximum 8%. Secondly, in the economic survey yesterday, which they have released, they have done an excellent exercise. They have said, look, what happens in our country, sometimes it is the tomato, sometimes potato, sometimes So they have said the tomato, onion, potato top. They have done it headline inflation and food inflation. If we remove these three, then what happens? And you will be surprised, if you remove these three, then inflation is basically in less than 5%.
Okay.
Agree?
Interesting.
And if you look at food inflation, only food, then it is between 6 and 7%. Now that's not high inflation when the target is between 2 and 6, and global inflation is 5 times their 30-year average. So I just wanted to clarify.